What's going on, everybody? This is the Talking Tactics podcast. My name is Daniel.
It's your boy HH.
Carl was in Burnley. He's now feeling up to it. We do this podcast every Tuesday. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud. If you're listening on Spotify, remember to give us a follow. Much appreciated to everybody who listens over there. If you're on Apple Podcasts, remember to subscribe. It's free. We don't charge you. And leave us a 5-star review if that's your thing. Shout out to everybody who's ever just taken the time out to leave a review. Like, that's going way out of your way. I understand that, but it means a lot. So thanks to everybody who's done that all over the world. If you do want to help the show out monetarily, though, we have a Patreon page that I encourage everybody to go check out. We've done, I think, 30 episodes now of over 30 minutes. So that's 15 hours of content for people if you're just bored and just want stuff to listen to.
Well done on us.
No, it's really interesting, diverse topics. Well, there's a lot of film, there's a lot of race, but it's fun. And I encourage everybody to go check it out. $3 a month, you get access to all the back catalogs. By the way, I do want to mention that we do have a Fantasy Premier League. The link is going to be in the description. My whole thing this year is just remember you have a team and just remember to change the players. So that's my thing this year. I need to get better at just remembering I have a team and remembering to change my lineup. And then maybe next year I'll actually try to win this thing. But right now it's just getting into the groove of just set your team, set your lineup, make sure you do your transfers and whatnot. So if you're into Fantasy Premier League, link in the description, the code. So remember to use that. So I did want to say that because I forgot that last week. Think you got anything you want to beg for, Have Hope?
No. What's it called? Jeff Bezos give me like 3.5 bill. Bill Gates give me 5.6 bill.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Can I just have 1% of your net worth?
That's it's like but you know what I would always say, like 300 million is not going to cause you any harm. That's it. All I want is just 350 million. That's it. And I will not say anything from you again. 350. Thank you.
All right, so this is the first week of Premier League action.
Si, senor. Let's get it over and done with, man. You know what I always do? I always go on a Daniel Taylor like tweets binge. So what I always do is like I just go to your Twitter page and I just go through your latest tweets and I'm just like always like retweet like because I always want to know say, okay, like no, let me just not retweet everyone, but almost everyone is either retweetable or likable because you always hit home truths in a very witty way. Thank you.
Thank you. People didn't like me yesterday though. It was like, why are you being so negative? I'm like, why would I be happy?
Those losers, man. So people actually have the cheek to now say, like, see, a circumcision is no time to be like, oh, let's be positive and everything and blah blah. I mean, look, we'll break it down, but just to kick things off, not a great way to start, man. It's not just like it's one game because I'm looking at it into the future and I'm seeing potential. Like this team are going to win games. Obviously, they're going to win games. If certain mistakes are not addressed, I see the same mistakes happening, i.e. played really well, created chances, a nice build-up play, no real goal scored, you end up losing the game. And I see that story being played out quite a few times this season.
My thing with Chelsea this season is if you're going to tell me from the beginning that this season is a complete write-off, like we're not trying to win anything, we're not trying to get top 4, if that's what the club is telling its fans, then fine. You can play Tammy Abraham. You can play Mason Mount. You can play Reece James. You can play all the youth you want. Bring in a whole under-19 squad and build it from ground up. Fine, cool. But I don't think that's necessarily what they're selling. Like in Frank Lampard's opening press conference, he was like, at the end of the day, this is still Chelsea and we still have a pressure to win things. Like I'm here to win things. You can't tell me you want to win things and field an under 21 side. Like you can't play Ross Barkley left wing, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham. Like it's a championship level attack. If we're being real.
Crazy. No, it is. Like, it is. Because like people have to like say, okay, Mason Mount, he looks all right. Mason Mount looks good. Right. Say all he wants about Man United. Say all he wants about the issues that they've had. You're still staring across at Paul Pogba, at Martial, even throwing Rashford and McTominay, who have at least a season of top-tier football under their belt at the very least. So you can say about all the issues they have, you're still going up against a team where most of those guys have either a season or seasons of top tier football. That the same can be said of Tammy Abraham. The same can be said of Mason Mount.
Tammy did play for Swansea in the Premier League. He just didn't play well. Yeah, but my thing is like I'm down with the Mason Mount project. Like I see the potential. I'm down with the Tammy Abraham project. I see the potential there. But don't sell me dreams or lie to me. Like I'm not stupid. You can't play those players, especially against Manchester United. I mean, maybe against like Norwich or somebody like that. Okay, you can do it. But just don't lie to me and tell me like, yo, we're gonna try to develop young players and win at the same time. Like this isn't the Netherlands. You want Ajax. Just don't lie to me. Although I should point out, there is Kante to come back. There is Rudiger to come back. There's Hudson-Odoi to come back. There's Loftus-Cheek to come back. Willian to come back. Basically, all the black players are going to come back and rescue the team. You have Reece James. He's coming back. I don't know where Mitchie is. Can somebody find Mitchie, please?
No. But my thing is that, see, this is something that I was saying to Nick, some people yesterday, is like, and I don't know whether you agree with this. I don't know whether there's an example. Maybe you can think of an example. Is there an example of a top-tier team playing two young centre-backs in their starting team? Like, just think, is there any team that's playing two sub-24 centre-backs consistently throughout a season? I don't think there is. It's normally either two experienced centre-backs or an experienced centre-back and a less experienced centre-back. You rarely ever see two young, still developing centre-backs as a pairing for a top team.
Lampard played with Zuma, so maybe he's partial to him in some sense. But when you look back at what Zuma was doing in 14-15 and before he got injured in 15-16, I mean, he was protected by Matic. He was playing alongside John Terry, and he had Thibaut Courtois and goal behind him.
Yeah.
Now he has Jorginho in front of him. He's beside Christensen instead of Terry. I don't know how good Kepa is. I don't think he's as good as Thibaut Courtois was.
No.
But he's not bad. So maybe it's negligible there. But when you're playing alongside arguably, I know people will get into argue about arguably the greatest Premier League defender of all time, and then you're playing in front of like a peak Matic, who at that time was like really, really good at just shielding the defense, and you're playing for
he was one of the best DMs in the league for sure.
Yeah, and you're playing for a manager whose first port of call is we're not going to let them score. Like you're playing for Mourinho. Yeah. When you want to play open, expensive football, you're playing in front of a midfield that's not really bothered with doing the defensive side of the game. Jorginho's in there to pass, not to defend. Kovacic is in there to carry the ball, not to defend. You're playing with Christensen, who is kind of like you in that I've never really been given the mantle of being the first guy in the team, except maybe at Mönchengladbach, but that's different than the Premier League. You're kind of setting him up to fail in a sense. And then it's against Manchester United. It's the last game of the slate. The whole world's watching. He makes one mistake, gives Martial the ball, gets a shot off, so then people are already on his neck, gives away a penalty, and it just kind of spirals from there. Other than those two mistakes, I didn't think he was that bad, but those were two really big mistakes. So he was panned, I guess. It's a risk. These are risks. But again, I just don't want them to sell me we're trying to win because I'm not stupid. So don't lie to me. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining, basically.
And I think because you mentioned the whole thing with Jorginho. Jorginho doesn't work in Lampard's system. Kante didn't play because he wasn't fully fit. So that is the only thing. Even if I still don't believe that. So, if you're fit enough to make the bench, you're fit enough to start. You don't put an 80% player on the bench. If you're on the bench, you should be at the very least 90% fit.
At the time when Kante was coming in, like don't forget your point. But just at the time Kante was coming in, I was like, why is he coming in? It's 3-0. They're like, this is stupid. Like, why disgrace him essentially? But what Lampard said in the post match was he just wanted to get him minutes because he hadn't played all preseason. So it was just an opportunity to just run him out there for 30 minutes and help him get his match fitness. Kind of the same way in preseason, Lampard would play 45 minutes of one team, 45 minutes of another. I guess he's just trying to ease Kante in with fitness. So I could understand that. It's just the idea of him coming on at 3-0 was just just let him train more. Like, why does he have to be in this result? And then he picked up like a cheap yellow card that could come back to bite. Suppose he gets his 5th one and then he's suspended in a game you need to win or something like that. So I thought it was silly, but I understand the logic behind it.
Like, and going back to my point is like, I don't know how you view it. But Jorginho literally needs Sarri. He only works in Sarri's system. The way that Lampard wants to play and how fast and direct the teams and how quickly they move the ball up, Jorginho can't deal with that pace. And Jorginho will be lost in this system. So I don't know whether Lampard still believes that. I don't know whether he played Jorginho because Kante wasn't fully fit, or he actually does believe that Jorginho can work in his system. But Jorginho will get badly exposed. See, Kante is pivotal for how Lampard wants to play. Jorginho will get fully exposed. So I think Jorginho has to find another club because I don't see how he fits into how Lampard wants to play, personally speaking.
See, there's this idea, and I'm glad. I think Andy Gray and Richard Keys, I think those are the names. They asked Gianfranco Zola about Kante and why was he playing in the DM position, and Zola basically broke it down like he's never played as a static DM to protect the back four, a la Matic in 2014-15. But if you remember what Mourinho was doing, he paired Matic and Fabregas. So you had the ball player in Fabregas who was able to like launch balls and find Diego Costa or whomever. But then you always had that one static person to protect the defense. If you want to play Kante and Jorginho, and Kante isn't a static defensive midfielder, but then you want Jorginho, you need him to actually be good at just kind of protecting. So you want him to protect and start attacks at the same time. That's a bit deep. That's kind of what Manchester United were asking Paul Pogba to do last season. Like, bro, we basically need you to do everything. We need you to score. We need you to assist. We need you to defend. We need you to control games. You need to do everything. And it doesn't quite work that way. Personally, I feel like it would be more advantageous to put two box-to-box midfielders in the midfield. So you play Kante and Kovacic together, and they're able to read the game, and one stays, one goes, and they're both kind of adaptable to maybe shielding and then going forward when the other one is doing the opposite job.
I don't know for sure. I mean, specifically to the game, are you worried?
I was worried as soon as they hired him.
Because the battle of the rookies.
They didn't hire him because he's a great manager. They hired him because he's Frank Lampard. If you look at Chelsea's past, 3-4 managers maybe? You had Benitez, Mourinho, Conte, and Sarri, all proven managers, won multiple trophies in different. Well, Sarri didn't.
From Sarri, yeah.
Elite, you would say, managers, and the type of coach that Chelsea should be looking at. Lampard's a complete. There's a word in my head that starts with the D that's on the tip of my tongue that I can't think of. It's a complete diversion from that kind of. We go for the best manager available. This is just. We need a feel-good factor.
Yeah,
we want the fans to get back on side. Frank Lampard did okay at Derby County. So maybe we can bring him in. He knows the club, in air quotes. He'll bring his staff, Jody Morris and others who are linked with the club. So maybe we can just kind of do it that way. And you're seeing that in the starting 11. Like, there's no way Sarri would start the season with Tammy Abraham and Mason Mount. That just wouldn't happen because this group of coaches has trust in players that they've known basically their whole lives, or just their whole football careers rather. So I'm worried in that, can you have kids essentially in the team and still expect to have an output comparable with more seasoned professionals? And when bad things happen, what happens with the club? Like, are the club cool finishing 11th? It's that weird dynamic of, I don't know if the club are going to trust Lampard enough.
Now, this is what I said even to begin with, before I was making my bold claims, which is Abramovich isn't the kind of dude to like, okay, no, do your thing, blah, blah. This isn't be a writer. Or like, yeah, I get that Chelsea are in a very peculiar situation of the transfer and everything, but is Abramovich going to be fine finishing 10th or 11th, getting beaten up by Bournemouth, Norwich, and so forth? Would he be like, it's a write-off? I don't know.
If you look at the table now, and you see Chelsea at 19th after one game, it's a bit jarring. It's a bit like the only team worse got blitzed by Man City. Should have been even more, but we will get into that. But yeah, it's one of those things of like, does Lampard have the trust of the club to finish 9th or 8th? I'd like to say yeah, but everything in history has shown me no. And this is what I was worried about at the beginning, that he's going to try risky things. He's going to play 11s that aren't customary for Chelsea. And it could go really well, or it could go really bad. And if it goes really bad, are the club willing to keep with him, or will they sack a legend? And my whole thing is like, do you guys really want to see Frank Lampard sacked? I didn't. Other people are like, nah, this is exactly what we need. So it's that risk that you take. But I'm glad we did this 24 hours later, because in the moment there would have been a lot of swear words. But I've had like that cooling off period.
No. But I think it's the best thing that could have happened to Lampard. I think after the whole preseason bravado, beats Barcelona, you beat this blah 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 Lampard. I think because if let's say they lost 2-1, then it'll be like, oh, it was close and everything. We played well. It played well in the first half, but the fact that it was a total beatdown, like, then it's like, okay, you have to now. That has to be, it is a shock to the system. You can say, okay, yeah, it is one game, but it's 4-0. If it was 4-0 by Man City, then okay, look, it's Man City. Or 4-0 to Liverpool, okay, it's Liverpool. But if it's 4-0 to a team who people say you will be battling with regards to getting that top 4 position, you lost 4-0 to them, it has to be a shock to the system. So
yeah, just lastly, and then we can move on. Like last season, Sarri started the year, I think, 13 games unbeaten. He looked like he was in the, quote, title race. And then he hit a rough patch and started losing games. And I feel like because there was hope in the beginning, once things kind of regressed to the mean and the actual frailties and problems with the squad actually came to the fore, fans turned because they had hope from the beginning, no pun intended, that, Chelsea were actually good enough to compete. It may be a blessing in disguise that you understand the levels from jump. This team needs work. All the injured players need to come back. This team isn't quite ready to compete on a level. Maybe over the course of the season, you can grow into something that can compete, kind of like what United did. Like they had their struggles. Obviously, they switched managers, but they had their struggles last season. And then something clicked, and they started winning game after game after game. Maybe that happens with Chelsea this season, but to understand that this is an uphill battle from jump. After one game, you're 19th. It's all uphill. And it doesn't get any easier next week because Leicester's coming. So Chelsea could be 20th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what thoughts do you have on United?
I think for United, they have to almost be as careful. See, this win I think is almost probably more dangerous for United than the loss is for Chelsea, because yes, they won the game, but if Tammy Abraham and Emerson took their chances, even Mason Mount as well in the first half, it would have been a very different game. The game was very open. And I was watching it with Nick, who's a United supporter, and he was even saying that, my gosh, United have no midfield. I don't know whether it was just bad tactics, the fact that both of these teams still have issues. That game was tactically a brick. It was a brick tactically. It was great to watch, entertaining, but with regards to tactics for a top flight game, it was a brick because it was far too open. So for United, but I think with United though, is like Lukaku is good and everything. Maguire and Bissaka look solid. They look solid. And if Martial and Rashford can get you like 30 Gs between them, I think United are looking all right. The big issue is just that midfield, because if United play like that against a City, a Liverpool, a Tottenham, an Arsenal, they will get beaten 100%, because those teams I named have better finishers. Even if you give it to a Wolves with Diego Jota and so forth and Cutrone, they'll get beat. It's just that those chances fall to guys who are not really sharp shooters. So that's my take. Yeah. And yeah, Martial being given the number 9. Yeah, man. Martial season is back. Martial FC.
I think just, I mean, you already made the point, but I was going to bring it up that Maguire and Wan-Bissaka look great. So they fixed their defense with those two signings, I think. Like, Wan-Bissaka is incredible. Maguire, I mean, he is what we thought he was. Just, solid. Well, he can play aerially, win aerial duels, all that kind of stuff. So that makes him suitable for the Premier League. But also he can play with his feet in a way that we saw maybe Zuma or Christensen in spaces struggle with. Obviously, I think. Well, I guess I'd ask more of a question. If you were kind of like an opposing manager, who would you target? If you were like a center forward and you were instructing your center forward to target one of the center backs, would you go for Lindelof or Maguire?
It depends on the kind of striker I am. If I'm a quick striker, I may be tempted to go for Maguire. If I'm a sort of stronger, bigger striker, like a target man, I would be tempted to go in for Lindelof. But I think Maguire would struggle with through balls. I think Lindelof is pretty quick. So Lindelof, is more suited to he'll be able to deal with through balls. I think Maguire against through balls, against a really quick, very fast thinking striker like an Aubameyang could potentially struggle. But I think a big target man, tough guy who can really move themselves around would give Lindelof issues with crosses in the air. So
now let's say the pairing is Lindelof and Phil Jones. Who are you targeting?
I'm targeting my entire life towards Phil Jones. Every man will woman.
This is my point. They've improved it to where there's actually like you actually had to think about, okay, if I'm fast, I might go for Maguire. If I'm big, I might go for Lindelof. But if you remove Maguire and you put in Phil Jones, like I don't even need to think about like being fast, being strong. Like everything in these 90 minutes is being directed to that one particular person.
Oh, yeah.
So they've improved it in that sense to where there's actually you have to think now, which is my point. So yeah, I enjoyed watching Wan-Bissaka. I enjoyed watching Maguire. Pogba, man.
That is basically.
I love this player, man. I love Paul Pogba in that sense, man. And I tweeted out that I can't wait until he gets old, because when he gets old and he loses his legs, and all he has is basically the supreme technique that he's basically had his whole career. Like then finally, I think people will understand what this player is about, because they won't be looking at him to, okay, we want you to run 19,000 kilometers in this game, and we need you to be up and down the box, and I want you to shove off 9 players and use your pace and power and all that stuff. The moment he loses all that stuff,
no.
In some way, yes. But like the moment he turns 33, and maybe not 33, that's a bit too old, but like 31, and he doesn't have the legs anymore, he doesn't have like the power or whatever, people are going to actually be able to enjoy his technique, because they're not going to be looking at him in that biased way. Like the pass to Rashford, bruh, that's
crazy.
Instinctive perfection. I don't even know what to call it.
That's why Pogba is you always have to have Pogba in, because that was a very typical Pogba game. He can literally, because for me, he was actually having a pretty bad game, losing the ball, ill-advised dribbles in the wrong places. If I'm in a match, I want to win the game. If Pogba makes 50 mistakes, but one thing he does leads to a goal, I'll live with those 50 mistakes, because those 50 mistakes are not leading to me conceding those goals. They're just 50 mistakes. Losing the ball, misplaced pass, didn't track a guy, but they're not all leading to goals. But he may make 50 mistakes, frustrate you, but he'll do one or two things that leads to a goal. Bro, it's worth the 50 mistakes.
And it's not like, you know how I hate to bring up Chelsea players, but it is what it is. You know how like if you go on online or maybe YouTube and you type in like Bakayoko compilation or something, and it brings up like all these mistakes of like he didn't trap the ball, or he'll pass the ball directly out of bounds to like nobody. And there'll be these like little things that he does. It's just like, bro, like, do you know how to play midfield? Like, are you an actual footballer? The mistakes Pogba has isn't just like I'm passing the ball out of bounds to nobody or something like that. Like the mistakes he makes, you can actually tell, okay, he was trying to get around this guy. Maybe he over dribbles too much. He's too elaborate. But there's a point that he's trying to get done, and then he messes up. So I can live with mistakes like that. Like, oh, you were trying to beat this player to create space, and then you lost the ball. Okay, but the positive or the upside of Pogba far outweighs whatever negatives he brings to the team. So that pass, I was like, oh yeah, it reminded me of the pass to Mbappe in the World Cup. Like, man, that's what Pogba's about. Just he sees the movement, instinctive pass over the top. I don't know why the line was that high, but it is what it is.
Look, Zuma Christensen, man.
But anyway, yeah, I Pogba, man, he's just
he's our dude, man. He's
that dude. I like him. I like him a lot.
I just learned from the Hangouts that Daniel James, I think 3 weeks before he signed for United, his father died.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's big for your debut to actually do that. To get that G, man. Yeah, man.
All right. Someone asked us a question, though. Can the white Usain Bolt become Chief Oga? White Usain Bolt is Daniel James, for those that don't know. That's from J Spurs 3. So can Daniel James become a Chief Oga? If you would explain to the people what a Chief Oga is, by the way.
So a Chief Oga is the highest possible tier you can get within the official rankings. So obviously the rankings go tier 3, upper tier 3, tier 2, upper tier 2, tier 1, chief ogre, and or you can just be on ranks. Basically, a lot of players are on ranks. Only very few players are actually ranked. And chief ogre is the highest possible ranking. J Spurs, there is no way in hell that Daniel James is sniffing. That Daniel James's ceiling is tier 3. That is his ceiling. So. No, tier 3 still is still pretty good. I mean, that's still pretty good to be ranked, man. Come on, look how many players are unranked. So to actually get ranked, that's a big deal.
Oh, somebody just got a question in at the buzzer. It's going back to Chelsea, so I apologize. Thoughts on Have Hope tweeting Lampard out like a plastic fan just because his stupid agendas weren't fulfilled? You actually tweeted Lampard out?
It was more of a joke. But okay. Because when I saw it, because did you know what it was? I was like, I bet you that this hashtag is so much trending because it would be such a reactionary thing to be hashtag Lampard out, and it will probably mostly be started by rival fans. So I just said, you know what? Let me just put that hashtag out. I think also it was just based on my frustration and my anger because I got made to look like a fool, and everybody was pretty much insulting and mocking me on YouTube comments. So that was just part of my frustration and my anger. I was like, look, Lampard out, bro. You have till Wednesday to get this right. Yeah.
And he says, what will he do when his predictions of beating Liverpool, reaching the Champions League semis, and Pulisic winning Player of the Year all fail? Hashtag HHWatch. Hashtag Brick of the Week from Mason Boys. So you have them beating Liverpool on Wednesday.
Look. Before that 4-0, I said, you know what, Chelsea could surprise people. That's what I said. I said they could just surprise people. After that 4-0, yeah, I'm not worried about Wednesday. What could happen on Wednesday?
Alisson's out for weeks, they say. Number one goalkeeper is now Adrian, who people might know from West Ham. But, I mean, he's like the whole rest of the team's still there. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I'm thinking like maybe Liverpool 2-1, something like that.
Yeah, that's.
I feel like Chelsea will they will play better, but they're not good enough to beat Liverpool. Not on a neutral ground anyway.
I don't think so, no.
That's how you wait for Super Cup preview, I guess.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about Liverpool against Norwich. Do you think Norwich played badly just to start?
Put it this way, they attacked really well. They defended like clowns. Even I was like, you know what? German coaches are really good. They're really good. And like, they should have gotten more goals. I mean, Pookie did get his goal in the second half, but I think even in the first half, they had 2 really good opportunities that they should have at least hit the targets. And there was some very nice build-up play that they had, especially because Liverpool played a very high line, and Norwich were able to get those balls over the top, especially on the left-hand side. And the way they were able to pin the passes and find space to create chances was actually very nice, which goes back to good tactical organization. But I thought the way that they defended and the amount of space to get to Liverpool was bad. Hence why I said attack looks good, but when you have just promoted, number one, you're going up against the Champions League winners and the team who finished second, not number 2. Number 3, your first port of call is to defend. Your second port of call is to defend. The third port of call is to defend. The fourth port of call is to defend. And your fifth port of call, now how can we now counter? You have to have a men behind the ball tactic if you're flipping Norwich going up against Liverpool at Anfield. So the way they set up was very, very, very naive and very foolish and actually disrespectful.
It's disrespectful to play football the way you want to play it, no matter who you play against?
No. It is disrespectful if you're Norwich and you're going up against a team like Liverpool who are vastly superior to you, thinking you can just play the way that you want to play, which is an attacking way, and think you can and think you won't get your face slapped up, which is what they did. They should have lost more.
It was own goal, and then when they were trying to clear it, they messed up. Salah came in, scored. The third goal was, I think, a Van Dijk header from a set piece. So by the time you're down 3-0, it's over.
No. But still, though, Liverpool were having way too many chances. Like the amount of space that Firmino and people were having, it was far too much. You can't give a team that's good that much space, and basically they made it far too easy for Liverpool.
Do you think these kind of new teams that are entering the Premier League having a level of bravery is a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, that's a difficult question. It depends on, because like look at Wolves. When they came in, they were extremely brave, but I just think that the players that they had are just really good players. Like, he just found some really good continental players who just are really good at playing an expansive way and can match up and compete against the so-called bigger clubs and bigger sides. Can Sheffield United do that? Can Norwich do that? Can any of these other dudes, can Aston Villa do that? I'm not sure.
I like that a manager has his idea, his philosophy, his just system of play. And he's like, I don't care who we're playing against. I don't care if we're playing against Liverpool. I don't care if we're playing against the Monstars, like in some sort of football Space Jam movie that's in my head. Like, I don't care who we're playing against. This is how we play. We play this way until the end.
No, but,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I admire that. So when you see a team like Norwich come up who are playing exceptional football in the championship, according to everybody who watched it, for them to come and say, no, this is the football we play, you deal with it. If we get slapped up 6-0, that's just a consequence of how good the other team is. But we're not going to compromise ourselves.
But
I like that.
No. But see, for me, I feel, again, I don't like that. You see, you have to pick and choose because, see, Norwich should play like that against Burnley. They should play like that against Everton, against Wolves, against Leicester City, and even against Chelsea. Even probably against Man United. I think against a Liverpool, against a Man City, and probably against a Tottenham, I feel you should have a men behind the ball counter-attacking system. But apart from those three teams, I feel you should feel confident in going out to go and attack Chelsea, United, Arsenal, Leicester, Wolves, Everton, so forth. But I think they're just particular teams that are so superior to you based on the individuals that they have. Mm-hmm. They are far too good and they will so easily punish you if you attack that there's actually no point in you trying to enforce your philosophy. Because remember, this is all about getting points. And against those teams, that 1 point could be valuable.
Did you watch the West Ham City game?
Yeah.
How would you describe the way West Ham played?
I know Pellegrini's philosophy, and he has a very South American philosophy, and they defended like clowns. They didn't know how to properly defend, and especially think that's a very big pitch. The London Stadium has a very big wide pitch. That's ridiculous. How do you get baptized in your own house? That's so, and I think that for Pellegrini, he obviously doesn't have a tactic to cope with a much better team like a City or a Liverpool. So Pep and City will continue to beat them on because Pellegrini will only play a certain way, which is forcing his teams to try and play and not really knowing how to defend.
My point here, though, is West Ham weren't as aggressive, I would say, as Norwich was. Like, they were a bit more conservative in their approach, maybe, because they understood they were playing Man City. And my point is, even if you try to play defensive against Liverpool, Manchester City, Tottenham to an extent, maybe once we get into, as you say, Arsenal, Chelsea, United, you can be a little bit more aggressive in that sense. But when you're playing against those top three teams that people accept, even if you're defensive, they can still beat. They can still get you.
If you know how to defend well, they can still get you. But you're playing with numbers and probability. If you have men behind the ball and you've studied how the opposing team play, and you studied the patterns of how they move the ball and the individuals, you decrease the chances of them beating you up. You just decrease the chances.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. But for me, it's a case of I've seen teams try to be defensive against Manchester City. I've seen teams try to be defensive against Liverpool, and they still get slapped up. So for me, I would like the braver approach. Look, this team is going to beat us anyway. So why don't we just kind of go out here and play the way we want to play, and maybe we get lucky. It's the same way like we kind of criticize this in Spain. So maybe I've flipped after watching this game and just kind of thinking about it a little bit more. But you know, when teams in Spain, they'll be playing in the cup against like Real Madrid or something, and they play their style and they just get beat 10-0, 11-0.
Clown.
But like I think in the past maybe week or two, I've reflected on that, and instead of saying like you're stupid, it's more like, nah, I appreciate the bravery in trying to play football the way you want to play football, even if that means you're going to get, I don't even know if you have a word for an 11-0 margin. Because it's not like, you know, when the United States women's team played, I think, Taiwan or someplace like that, and they got beat like 14-0, 13-0. That's just that's more a vast disparity in quality. I don't think like when you come to Norwich, Liverpool, the disparity is that big. So you do have a chance in terms of, we're going to go there, play. If we score first, maybe we can hold on then. But especially once you go down 1, now we need to get, if we want to get points from this game, we have to come out even more. So then it leads to the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6. So yeah, I'm more attuned now to say I appreciate the bravery and sticking to the philosophy of your principles rather than just like cowtailing and kind of hiding. But anyway, there is a point from the Man City game that we need to talk about. How do you feel about VAR, bro? Did you see how far they called Sterling offside by? I swear it was like maybe a millimeter or 2.
It's offside. It's offside. Even if it's a pubic hair, it is offside. It's your offside by.
I've seen some pretty long pubic hairs, bro.
Yeah, it's like people say, okay, it's what's there to complain about? The rule says any part of your body that is beyond the last man before the ball is kicked means you're offside. You now have technology, full-on technology that you can pause, go to different angles, look, zoom in, zoom out, that can tell you categorically whether any part of someone's body is beyond the last man. And there you go, he's offside. So there is nothing to discuss about. Like when you asked about it, I wasn't even thinking about the Sterling thing. I was thinking about how the stoppages, because for me, VAR worked beautifully at the World Cup. I thought it was really, really good. At the Copa America, it was a mess, complete and utter mess. It was horrible because it was taking too long, and it was just I don't know what went wrong there. So I just think that if you have a situation where it's swift to the point, then look, man, it's still weird. It still gets some getting used to looking up at this because it feels very much like NBA, NFL, and I don't want that for football, So
do you know? Yeah, I was thinking about this because I heard you say the point maybe earlier. And if you look at like the NFL, it takes 3 hours, sometimes even more, to play a game that's timed for 60 minutes. In the NBA, it takes 2 hours to play a game that's timed for 48 minutes.
Wow.
In football, it takes roughly like the broadcast time would be 2 hours to play a game that's 90 minutes. So football should be a more free-flowing game based on that. But it's just what I was thinking about. Like it's the game's 60 minutes long and it takes 3 hours to televise it. Like, ugh. Anyway, my thing with Sterling is the idea is level is onside. When you're learning football and somebody tries to teach you the onside rule, you don't quite understand it at first, and then you just kind of gradually understand what it is. Then you hear the thing, level is onside. If you're offside by a millimeter, aren't you generally level?
No.
What do you mean? So can you be offside by a nanometer?
But then it's like, see, the whole point of rules is where does this
sound like a Fed, bro. See, this is my problem with referees, man. This is my problem with referees.
Daniel, see, there's the issue now, because if you're not saying, okay, let a nanometer go, let a millimeter go, let 2 millimeters go, so where does it end?
There needs to be a definition for what is level.
There we go. Wait. Very quick. Do you know what I've always said? Sorry to disrupt, but do you know what I've always said? So I don't forget it because my brain is a bit...
Yeah, go ahead.
What I've always said, and this is what I believe. If there is space between yourself and the last man, it's offside. If there is no space, I say call it onside. If there you can see space, and I believe that was the ruling at a point they then changed, but I think if you can see space between the last man and the defender, that's offside. But if you don't see any space, so even if your shoulder and your head may be ahead, but your foot is still level, it should be called onside. That's how I personally would view it.
You know what? I would adjudicate it the way they do a ball crossing the line. All of the ball has to be crossed the line for it to be a goal. So how come I could have all of my body behind the last defender, but my shoulder blade is a little bit protruding past that guy's chest or whatever, and I'm called offside?
Yeah,
shouldn't it be crazy. All of my body should be across the defender? If 1 millimeter of the football crosses the goal line, it's not a goal unless the whole ball is across. But you can be offside if you're just 99.999% of your body is where it's supposed to be, and that 0.0001. Like, I don't understand that. So there needs to be a discussion about what is level, because I feel like it's the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. You're 100% right. If you're a pubic hair offside, you're offside, right? And if you have the technology, the HD cameras to figure it out, fine. Sterling's offside. I wouldn't argue that according to the rules, Sterling was offside. We could stop the argument there. But philosophically, or just like for my own amusement, the spirit of the law is always to give the attacker an advantage in the sense of, like, if it's close, let the goal go. If it's level, you're onside. For me, there's no way you can say that someone is offside if it's such a minuscule distance, because it defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. It doesn't make any sense. And I feel like, personally, I would say Sterling would be onside, despite me knowing that technically he's offside. But that's for me, because I would go by the spirit of the law. But once you give it to referees who, in my estimation, if you want to be a lifetime referee and like your goal is to be, I want to be a professional football referee, that's not too much different than somebody who wants to be a judge or a police officer, or just those little kids who will hall monitors that would stop running in the hallway, and then they'd write you like a little demerit or whatever the case may be. Like, it's those people just grown up. So then you give them the technology to like enforce every little thing. It ruins the game for me, because that's not what that is supposed to be there for. I don't think VAR is there to judge, oh, his left testicle was 2 millimeters offside. So like that defeats the purpose. I think of what VAR is meant to be.
Because my thing about it is that, even going to the whole offside thing, is the whole point of the rule is goal hanging. We don't want some dude gaining an advantage, because then it'll just make football just crazy, because just have guys goal hang. Because remember, the whole point of football is it's hard to score. And the whole philosophy of offside was, don't make it so easy for the attacker and don't give them an advantage. How is your left testicle being ahead of the last defender an advantage to score?
I don't know.
Like, now, having your body all the way over fully ahead of the last defender, that is a clear advantage. But your how is your shoulder ahead of the last man an advantage? What the hell?
You know what else is interesting? Obviously, this has gone a little bit longer than I wanted, but can they accurately and consistently tell when a ball is being kicked? Part of the offside rule is it's when the ball is played. In the time it takes to kick a football, do you start from when the passer kicks it? Do you start somewhere in between, or do you start when the ball leaves the foot?
Moment of impact.
Where do you stop it in the moment of impact? Because if we're talking about millimeters and we have the technology to break it down that far, the ball just doesn't touch the foot and come off. There's a point in time where your ball is almost stuck. Your foot is stuck to the ball.
True.
So where are you stopping the camera? And are you stopping it in the exact same spot every time? Because in the moment it takes for your foot to come off the ball, this millimeter on my shoulder could be behind, it could be forward, it could be level. So that's what I want to know. Like, when are we stopping the frame? And can you do that consistently with every pass? If we're going to be judging down to the millimeter, down to the nanometer, that kind of thing, I would like to know how they adjudicate that. Because for me, that's a level of variance that could have somebody onside depending, or somebody off. It's just like that. Look, like, it shouldn't be this technical. You should be able to look and say that's offside. It shouldn't be, oh, we need to get graphs and get the level and somebody bring out a tape measure, and like, it shouldn't be like some scientific effort. It should just be, oh, that looks offside. Anyway. Was there any other game you watched this week that stands out? Maybe Harry Kane scoring the brace in the last few seconds, or last few minutes rather, or I didn't watch the Arsenal game. I did catch the highlights of Aubameyang's goal and whatnot.
I watched the highlights of the Tottenham game. I watched the Arsenal-Newcastle game.
So what did you think? Just on those two teams quickly.
Yeah, so basically, I don't think Newcastle should be too worried. I think Newcastle looks all right, although they definitely need to improve. But I think it was a very close game, especially in the first. It was a very close game, and I think the difference is Arsenal have Aubameyang, Newcastle have Joe Linton. So and I think when you have a guy who I believe could be top scorer this season, you give him a sniff under the chance he's going to put that ball in the back of the net. So I just think that it's for us. I think for us, like it's more so about what is that Lacazette, Pepe, Aubameyang going to look like. Getting replacements for Mustafi and of course Danny Ceballos and how he's going to help impact and improve the midfield. I think Arsenal could be all right, but I'm very much looking forward to the Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe link up. And I think for Newcastle, Joe Linton looked all right. He looks all right. I think give Steve Bruce a chance. Okay, if after five games Newcastle like 17, 16, then okay, like sack him and then try and beat up Mike Ashley. But before you want to beat up Mike Ashley, look, it is what it is. Benitez is gone. It was stupid. It was a crazy decision. But give this dude at least 5-6 games. See where it's all at. This could have easily been a point they could have gotten from Arsenal. And for Tottenham and Villa, Villa looking alright. But I just think that for Tottenham was a good response. What a way to announce yourself. Ndombele, quality goal, probably goal of the weekend. Very good goal. And Harry Kane now scoring for the first time in August for ages. Maybe that is just him saying, "Bruh, I think I'm gonna G up for Tottenham this season."
Do we have any other games?
I mean, everyone else is still sort of in preseason mode. I mean,
Yeah.
there was it depends. The PSG Nîmes game leads into the whole Neymar situation, so we can sort of.
Yeah, we was gonna get to that. So we can just do questions and then we can go where we want. So let's do some questions. Remember, the tweet for question goes out every Monday. When I remember the tweet, this week was a bit late, so I apologize to you guys, but
Terrible.
It is what it is. Yeah. This question came from Linden Boulevard 1. Are Neymar and Kyrie Irving good cross sports comparisons? I think we've done this before, where Kyrie wanted his own team. He went to the Celtics, for those that don't know the NBA, because he was playing under LeBron James. And then that same summer, I guess, the thought was Neymar wants his own team, so he leaves Messi, who would be analogous. Messi and LeBron would be analogous. So Neymar wants his own team, so he goes to PSG. So, yeah, they are similar in that sense. And then Kyrie finds out it isn't easy this summer, and now he's with the Brooklyn Nets, so he's left the Boston Celtics. And the idea is Neymar is finding out that life in PSG isn't as lovely as he might have liked. So now he's looking to go to either Real Madrid or Barcelona or wherever. So you can compare and contrast them, I think, quite easily. Did you read today or maybe yesterday that the PSG Ultras came out and were like, Neymar, you're a son of a bitch.
Oh yeah.
Get lost, basically.
I know that everything in the PSG stores from Neymar has been ripped off and taken away.
Wow, damn, they're scrubbing him.
Yep.
They're scrubbing him. So Real Madrid in the past couple weeks have become potential suitors, I guess would be the better word. So what do you think is going to happen?
I think Barcelona are much closer than they are.
Yesterday, I was in like a hangout, and you will know these people, but I asked Phil, who's like a crazy Barcelona fan, and this was all in a row. I was like, where do you think Neymar's going to end up? He was like, I think he's going to come to Barcelona. And I told these people to be honest as they could. He thought he was going to end up in Barcelona. Then I asked Abdul, who's a Real Madrid fan, where do you think Neymar's going to end up? He was like, I think he's going to come to Real Madrid. Then I asked Tosin, who's a PSG fan, where do you think he's going to go? And Tosin said, Se queda. So I talked to a Barcelona fan, Real Madrid fan, PSG fan, and I tried to get them to be as honest as I could. And they all thought he was coming to their club or staying at their club. So basically, nobody knows what's going to happen with this, which makes it quite interesting to me.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd like to see him at Real Madrid. I can compare Neymar and Hazard together on the same team, and I'll have evidence to maybe say Hazard's better. Like Hazard's outperforming this guy against, I don't know, some lower level Spanish team. But the point is, I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with this situation.
Neymar going to Barcelona is a loser's move, man. There is no other way to say it apart from that. It's just a complete loser's move if he's going back to Barcelona, because that doesn't make it. That you're just showing that's you're going backwards and you're going back to be Messi's bait. There's no other one. You're going to be his bait. Real Madrid is
You could
the
say
only
sidekick.
bit. Real Madrid is the only move where
His
now
female dog.
this is a big boy move because El Clasico is now alive now. So El Clasico is on, and if he leads Real Madrid to a Champions League or more importantly to a La Liga title ahead of Barcelona, boom, because right now Neymar, can we both agree that he's the most divisive football player in the world?
That might be Cristiano still.
Divisive? No, it's just Messi fans.
They took him off FIFA because of allegations.
Come on, are you saying apart from Messi fans?
I said might be. I'm just trying to come up with somebody who I think might be.
Okay.
So
well, look,
I said Cristiano's the most popular athlete in the world. I would assume that would create some form of divisiveness, but you might be right. Actually, now that I think about it,
yeah.
that will be stricken.
Yeah, that was strictly for the record. Yeah,
yo! Did you see Neymar and Cristiano like they were doing an advert and they were boxing?
Yeah. There's a joke in there somewhere. I'm not smart enough to think of the joke, but there's
I feel the same way, bro. Or something, I don't know.
Oh my god! Oh jeez.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So the most Neymar's the most divisive, is what you said.
Yeah, I believe he's the most divisive. So I think the only move that will win him back love is Real Madrid. If he stays at I don't know how he stays at PSG. I just don't know based on what has happened. If he goes to Barcelona, no matter what he does or what he wins, he'll only be loved by Barcelona fans, but everyone else will be like, "Oh my gosh, you just ran back." Real Madrid is the only move where people can now respect you and see you as something. So
yeah, I think the turn from PSG fans is one of the most interesting things about this. It's like so they're just ready to get rid of him, I guess, and maybe it's. I would assume living in Paris or just living in France. This is like the major. It's like it's a big story in the English speaking world. I could only imagine like if you're a PSG fan in France, what their TV, their podcast, what their media is up to. So the reports of Neymar wants to leave, Neymar's going, he's not going to come. Like all of that just kind of swirls week after week, day after day, and it's just fine. Like if he doesn't want to be here, like get rid of him. So yeah, and then you telling me that they're taking his stuff out of the store,
yep. All gone.
Although I do question this. Suppose Neymar went to Real Madrid. What number does he wear?
Wait, he was 11 at Barcelona, wasn't he? Was he 11? I think
he was 11. Do they strip Bale of the number 11 and give it to Neymar?
Yes.
Or because he's Neymar, do they take the 10 off Modric? Or do they convince Modric to like give up his 10 and they give that to Neymar?
I think Modric would give up his 10. I don't think Modric is that much like, oh man.
Hazard asked Modric to get the 10 and Modric told him no. So then really? Hazard has 7. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I think what would happen is they would take the 11 from Bale. They would strip him of that number. Zidane already doesn't fuck with him, so they'd strip Bale of the 11, give 11 to Neymar, and then Bale would be left with like 26 or 31 or whatever number's next. They wouldn't take the 10 from Modric. I don't think they'd do that. He's a Ballon d'Or winner. Like, you can't take his number. Pac Mouse, thoughts on Karius going back to Liverpool?
Oh, what?
I guess because Alisson's injured, Karius going back. He was loaned to Besiktas. So he wasn't sold. So
no. Let's see. After a guy does that stuff in a Champions League final, he should never sniff that team for the rest of his life. Like the dude is like, I think the dude is going to be a full Siberian citizen like very soon. Man.
Do you know what though? The fact that Liverpool the next season went out and won the Champions League. Obviously, I know like what you did again for Benzema and the last Bale goal, that was pretty bad too. Yeah. I was like, there were 2 mistakes, but I can only think of the one that he just basically passed Benzema the ball.
Look, let me say, it's the worst goalkeeping mistake I've ever seen in my life.
It's bad. Given the level that's meant to be, like that's bad. But the next season they went out and they won the Champions League, so maybe he could come back. Look, we know you messed up 2 years ago. We corrected the wrong. We went out and we got Alisson. We won the trophy that we didn't win because you messed it up for us. So maybe he could come back and be like second. So I don't know. Maybe it's the hate isn't as strong as it could be or should be because they actually went out and won the trophy. I don't know. Two more questions we got here. How many more Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues would Sir Alex have won if he had the opportunity to buy 3 right backs in 3 years and dump a goalkeeper within a year? These Pep versus Sir Alex debates just give me headaches from Sammy 1679.
Yeah, like no. Don't ever put Pep in the same sentence as Ferguson. Like for me, like
they traded Danilo for Cancelo. How?
Juju and White's matchup. No, but like
I can't wait until the next week we need to have the discussion about what Sarri's doing at Juventus. Like we need to set out 15 minutes and just discuss Juve because this guy he's up to weird stuff. I don't know what he's doing. Or maybe it's not Sarri because I know he's like a head coach. He's not the manager. So whoever's in charge of their transfers, we must discuss. But Pep versus Sir Alex.
Nah, don't. No. Like you've spent too much money. Ferguson was pretty much destroyed and rebuilt teams from scratch, not spending the kind of insane money that Pep has. Like I think that with Pep was like, bro, how can you spend 5 trillion and you've not made a Champions League final since you've left Barcelona?
Lastly, from Coming Up Short 1, for Daniel, talk to us about Loftus-Cheek and Dele Alli. I don't think they're particularly similar in terms of play style. Loftus-Cheek is more of a midfielder than Dele Alli is, for one. The teens from football Twitter claim otherwise, of course. Curious to hear what you think. People compare these two because they're kind of tall and mixed race.
Yeah. I was about to say that. No, they're light skin. Like Dele Alli, if you even have that tall. Basically, the only thing that they share is their light skin. Apart from that, they're pretty different. And Loftus-Cheek is. See, I think Dele Alli is way overrated. Way overrated. I don't think he's as good as people think he is. For me, Loftus-Cheek is easily the better player. Easily.
See, this is the thing about people that look alike. It's the same way people want to compare Yaya Toure to Paul Pogba. You want to compare N'Golo Kante to Claude Makelele. They want to compare, I don't know, Olivier Giroud to Gignac, or just if you look similar, we'll compare you with somebody that looks similar to you, even if your style of play is different. So, for instance, like Makelele and N'Golo Kante, they're short. I think they're both 5'6". They're French. They're defensive midfielders in quote marks, but they play the position completely different. Makelele has his own role, like it's named after him. Kante doesn't play like that, but because he's French and short and black and bald, people just make the comparison. Yeah, it's what it is. They play for the French national team. It's the whole thing. Dele Alli and Loftus-Cheek, they kind of look similar. So, and they're of a similar age. They're both English. So the comparison is made. What I get into is people would say, I'd rather have Dele Alli in my team than Loftus-Cheek. And I look at that and I think, do you watch football? Because if I want to use Have Hope's terms, because I'm having a conversation with him, Dele Alli is he's like an effective footballer in some ways. People might even argue that. But he's not going to complete step overs. He's not going to do dribbles. But if you get him the ball in and around the box, he'll probably score you a goal. He can create assists in that sense. Like Loftus-Cheek is more of a footballer in the way that you would use the term. Like he'll dribble you. He has skills. And if you get him in the box, he's good enough. I would say Dele Alli is a better finisher. He's more of a second striker, whereas Loftus-Cheek is more of an attacking box-to-box maybe, who could play number 10 if you really wanted him to. And for me, when I look at the two players, the one that's just more visually appealing, just the style of football that they play that I appreciate more is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, just because he has wiggle to him. He's more entertaining to watch in that sense. I've always seen him as he's a 6'3" version. Like if you could make Eden Hazard 6'3", just like you're not supposed to be that tall with that kind of low center of gravity that you can spin players and just do the kind of aggressive things that he does with the ball. It's why he has back problems. Like the chronic back problems that he has, I think, is because from young, he's been able just to do these things that his frame just isn't really meant to be able to do. And that's why he has these injuries over and over. But yeah, Dele Alli, he's just more stiff and he'll do what he's meant to do, but it's not in any kind of exciting way. Like you couldn't put Dele Alli's best highlights behind like some trap beat and get me to watch it. Like his YouTube comp, it would just be like goals scored, but it's not going to be any like
I like
tricks
passes
or
and
anything.
everything.
Like he's not going to dribble anybody. So
No,
I
I mean,
enjoy
no.
I enjoy Loftus-Cheek's version of football anyway.
As
But
you
they
said,
aren't
like,
similar in terms of just what they do, but
you
just
know,
how they
like,
look.
as you said, like I think it's about effectiveness and just aesthetically.
Aesthetics, yeah.
It's like aesthetically the way that Loftus-Cheek plays his football. That's just like a natural footballing talent. Dele Alli just doesn't have as clean footwork. His ball control isn't as clean. His balance isn't as clean, and he does feel very awkward and very haphazard in the way that he sort of like controls and moves with the ball. But he can be effective, especially in the position that he plays and in the role that he plays for Tottenham. But just Loftus-Cheek, I feel you can do more with him. I just think that you can pull Loftus-Cheek in almost any team and he'll still be able to do what he does. Dele Alli won't be able to be effective in any kind of system. I just think he needs to work in a very particular kind of environment to get the best out of him.
We can leave it there. Let's not belabor the point. Remember, leave a 5-star review if you're listening on an iTunes device. Subscribe as well. We see you if you subscribe. We don't see the names, but it's always like 80% of listeners were subscribed. I'm like, who is this other 20%? Like, you 20% people, subscribe. It's free. If you're on Spotify, shout out to you guys. Remember to follow us. If you've listened this deep, we appreciate you. If you're on SoundCloud, hit the likes, hit the hearts, bro. Like, come on. Remember to share the podcast with your friends. Come on.
Share. Like. If you don't, you're a loser.
Thank you. And yeah, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll get your 30 to 40 minutes of Talking Tactics extra, whatever you feel like looking it up. At Daniel to look, Have Hope. Where can people find you?
You can always find your boy at HalfHopePod or at the Half Hope on Instagram, or just visit the website halfhopefootballpod.com.
Carl Anka is at The Athletic, at Anchorman616. Hopefully he'll be more rested next week and he will join us and give us reports from the grounds he's visited. So, Talking Tactics podcast, sometimes funny, sometimes serious.
Always football.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Stay black.
So, boom. Have Hope. You take it away, man.
So, obviously, in the wake of these mass shootings that happen in America, people are looking for what to blame. And pretty much, this almost happens like clockwork, and this has been happening since, I want to say maybe since the time of Tipper Gore, or even either before that or just after that. It was that whenever there's these mass shootings or something violent happens, video games are the first to be blamed. So either video games or even films now. So basically, there's this film called The Hunt, and it was set to be released. And Universal Studios have now, first of all, Universal Studios pulled all advertising of the film. Now they've pulled the film from being released. So basically, the plot of the film follows these rich people who go out hunting rednecks or Trump supporters, and it's made by this house called Blumhouse, who do very independent, very edgy, risque kind of films because they